Guys, it's Nicole and welcome back to my channel. This is my largest Vanda orchid and I'm going to be repotting it into a clay pot with chunky mix. This is an orchid that I got 2 years ago as a seedling and it's grown really nicely. It's a Mimi Palmer hybrid. So I'm going to be moving it from this pot and we're going to upgrade the setup and check out the roots. So follow along. So I've soaked this orchid for some time to make sure that the roots are nice and pliable. When I repotted it for the first time, I noticed that some of the roots would die off. So I had to repot it again, so within a month. But the new roots that grow in adapted to being potted up. So a lot of folks with Vanda orchids, they could grow them bare root. A lot of my friends in Florida can grow them bare root, but the humidity levels out there are much higher than New York City in the winter. So I have to pot it up or else the roots desiccate. Now I set my Vanda orchids up into different setups. I find that larger Vandas don't like to be consistently moist. So they need tons of air. I think that's a better way of putting it. They need loads of air. So this isn't a chunky mix. I think I put moss in there because it was the first time I kind of potted up a Vanda and the first time I owned one. But I do have some of my Neophenicias and Neophenecia hybrids in semi-hydro that works well for me in my environment. May not work for everyone. This one looks like it's working out well in this chunky mix, even with a little moss. But I think just more air is optimal for these larger Vanda types. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut this open and free the roots because we have a big situation here where we have to clear this up. So I'm gonna fast forward here as I work on freeing this orchid from this pot. And as you could tell by now, I am quite over the Repot Me slotted pots. I think this was $4. And here I am cutting through a $4 pot. So I think I'm done with these. And I'm only gonna use what I have just because this is just every year, it's the same thing. Well, anyway, for real, I will fast forward now and come back with a freed orchid root system. free. So I'm gonna get it out of all of this moss, but first I'm gonna pick up all of the little plastic pieces that fell all around me, so I'll be right back. Alrighty guys, this isn't too bad. Unfortunately, I do have some construction going on, so I might have to voice over at some point. But this root system doesn't look terrible. The key was that we repotted it and then had to pot it up again, so the old root system died, but the new root system got used to this. And I put more moss in here than I remembered. But we're gonna free this up, and I wanna put it into a setup of coconut husk and perlite and charcoal. It's one of those old Repot Me mixes that I have. So I'm gonna throw it in there. So I do have other Vandas that I do have in clay pots. So I have some in semi-hydro, which I mentioned, and that would be my Neophanetia hybrids. Those seem to do well in semi-hydro in my environment, but as I mentioned, these larger ones don't always do so well, and I found that the Ascophanetia cherry blossom also didn't do well, so I had to pot that one up. So I do have maybe 8 or 9 Vandas that I have clay pots with coconut husk, and those seem to be doing well. So I have one that's actually spiking right now, the Vanda Paki crossed with the Neophanetia falcata. That one's looking good, and I'm excited to grow these because a lot of people don't think you can grow Vandas in New York City. And I think you can, you just have to make some adjustments, and you can't grow them like folks who live in other more humid environments do. So if you grow them bare root, the roots are gonna desiccate on you. So you do have to make these adjustments. It is kind of annoying to pot Vandas up because the roots do have to adapt to the system. And any roots that are new tend to do well versus an older root, so that's something to keep in mind. But I'm gonna loosen this up. I'm gonna soak this a bit longer, and we'll come back with a freed root system. Root system looks really good here. For something that I potted up like 2 years ago, it's not bad. So I'm gonna get rid of any dead looking roots, anything. These are really obvious because they are completely different color. Like this has a new root tip, which is great. This is a little older. I'm gonna cut off like the tip there. I'm gonna be conservative as usual, as per the usual. What are these beautiful root tips? I think this is okay. I mean, it's not ideal, but we left a little bark in there, and I think that's fine. This is going back into an organic setup. So, and I think this is fine. I'm not really seeing that many roots that I want to get rid of. We have some growing root tips on the bottom, which is fantastic. They'll continue growing. And I think maybe this one, cut this off. I'm looking forward to these root tips growing down because they'll adapt to the coconut husk. Probably won't be that much of a difference because this was in a somewhat moisture retentive mix. Coconut husk is airy yet retains a good amount of moisture, and we're going to put it into a clay pot, which will dry even sooner and promote quicker drying. So we'll water it up pretty frequently, but it'll get its air. So let me go get the pot and we'll pot this up. All right, so I've soaked the clay pot in water so that it's not dry or desiccating when I water it, because if you put it into a dry pot, it kind of sucks the moisture out. I'm going to take this little mesh thing that I got so that the medium doesn't fall through. I'm going to take a little bit of a layer of this husk on the bottom. So we're going to spread that on the bottom, and then we're going to place our Vanda Let me move this back. Get you guys a better view. We're gonna put the Vanda in here, tucking in any new root tips that are growing, and leaving any root tips out that were out if we can. If it has growing root tips, I'm just gonna go ahead and tuck them in without trying to break them. This might have to stay that way. And then we're just gonna fill around the pot. I think that's it. So we are all set with this orchid. It's potted up in coconut husk, perlite, and some charcoal rocks and some other things in there. And I think it's gonna do well. I think it'll bloom this year. It's a good size and it's growing well. It seems to like my conditions despite being in New York City. And this is the most miserable time for it just because it's winter. It's the end of winter. It's been 20–30% humidity, but I've been watering it in a relatively moisture-intensive mix, and now this one's a little bit more well-draining, and I think everything will be a-okay. Well, anyway, guys, let me know if you grow Vandas, if any of you guys live in the Northeast or in dry environments in the Pacific Northwest or anything like that. Let me know down in the comments, especially these larger types. If you guys like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more orchid content. Don't let anyone tell you you can't grow these things because where there's a will, there's a way. Well, thanks everyone. Bye.